so I wanted to get into this outrage over what Representative Ilhan Omar said this past week. You know, as you already know, just a few months ago, Ilhan Omar was celebrated by the Democrats everywhere as the first naturalized citizen from Africa to be elected to U.S. Congress, as well as one of the first 2 Muslim women ever elected. This was a huge show of inclusivity, right? People across the country said, wow, the Democrats really do have a big tent that does include some women of color. Well done for them. That's massive. That's tremendous. So now it's time to crush those women. You see, last week the Democratic leadership realized Ilhan Omar holds views that don't facilitate the imperial war machine the way you're supposed to do if you're a member of Congress, of either party. This is their job. This is what they do. So the DNC has hastily changed their hashtag goals whiteboard from saying, we want women of color, to saying, we want women of color who don't question our imperial rampages overseas and our oligarchy and our system of political bribery. Those are the ones we want, if you have any hanging around. What happened a few days ago was Glenn Greenwald tweeted about how the GOP was threatening punishment for Omar's criticisms of Israel. Then Representative Omar responded by tweeting, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby." Now, if you aren't thinking about anti-Semitism, then you think to yourself, oh, she's talking about political donations and lobbying groups. But if anti-Semitism is all you've got on the brain and you're already prejudiced against non-white women, then your response is very different. It's Ilhan Omar is using anti-Semitic tropes and she must apologize. And when she apologizes, it will not be enough. Which is what people have done. And it's what our mainstream media has done and continues to do. You know, they're running around going, well, sure, we support the blowing up of civilians with our bombs every chance we get, but this tweet stating there's money in politics, that is beyond the pale. That is repulsive. So Omar next clarified what she meant by all about the Benjamins, and she said she meant AIPAC, the Israeli lobbying group. So then half of Congress and even Donald Trump responded that they were horrified by this use of anti-Semitic tropes. Now, let's ignore the fact that Donald Trump once tweeted an actually anti-Semitic image of Hillary Clinton that said she was the most corrupt ever and had a Jewish star for no reason. Like, why is there a Jewish star there? Just say she's corrupt. And let's also ignore that the DNC at their convention sold an actually anti-Semitic t-shirt of Bernie Sanders. You can Google it if you like. It's Bernie Sanders with like a rat face. And that was the only thing for sale at the DNC store that featured Bernie Sanders. That's at the convention. They sold that. So let's ignore. Those are the same people claiming Omar is anti-Semitic right now. But ignore that. Let's instead focus on the fact that if you're a rational human, it's easy to see Omar was not being anti-Semitic. And I get to say that because I'm considered an expert because I'm fucking Jewish. Alright? Which is also why I can say fucking Jewish. Everyone else has to say effing Jewish. Full disclosure, I'm Jewish by birth, but no longer religious by choice. I've stayed in it until 13, you know, for the bar mitzvah presents, which I guess means I was all about the Benjamins. Anyway, here's the thing. Recently revealed undercover recordings have proven Omar absolutely correct. I know you're shocked. AIPAC and the Israel lobby have full control over congresspeople by wielding money, aka Benjamins. These recordings that were leaked, they were captured for a documentary for Al Jazeera that was called The Israel Lobby. But then, when it turned out that this documentary was going to come out, Al Jazeera was pressured, wait for it, by the Israel lobbies and the governments they own, and Al Jazeera ultimately shelved the documentary. However, it leaked a few months ago. You can go watch it now if you'd like. In one of the clips, you hear David Oakes, founder of Halev, an organization that pays to send people to the AIPAC conference and a big pro-Israel advocate. He was recorded by an undercover reporter saying that the only way to influence politicians is with money, and that they do it. So the Israel lobbies admit they manipulate Congress with money. They say the exact same thing as Omar, they just do it behind closed doors. And are they called anti-Semitic? That's an anti-Semitic trope, how dare you? Just because something is a trope doesn't mean it's always being talked about in that way as some form of, hate speech. It may be an anti-white people trope that white dudes are dick helmets, but that doesn't mean you can't ever mention the words dick helmet without it being racist. Like, if I say National Security Advisor John Bolton is a helmet of a dick, it's just factually accurate. It's just, whether it's a trope or not, it's scientifically proven that that guy is a cock and balls. They've done studies, many studies. So it's quite clear that AIPAC and other pro-Israel lobbying groups use massive amounts of money to influence Congress. In fact, right now, they're forcing through a bill that is designed to stop the BDS movement. You probably recall the BDS movement is a push to get people to boycott products made in Israel, not because people hate the Jews, but because of the way Israel is treating Palestinians. The hundreds of unarmed Palestinians they've killed in the past few months alone. I've covered it on my show, Redacted Tonight, but it doesn't get a lot of mainstream coverage. These are unarmed civilians being shot. Some of them have press written across their chest. They are journalists, and they're shot at by snipers, meaning intentionally aiming at journalists. So it's things like that which are why the BDS movement has gained strength. It's not anti-Semitic to support BDS. It's pro-human beings. Also, and I cannot stress this enough, Israeli policies and the Jews are two very different things. Jews can be against Israeli policies. Case in point. So when you act like criticisms of Israel are criticisms of Jews, you're being an idiot, all right? Of Jared Kushner proportions. You're making Steve Bannon look like Stephen Hawking. You're making Axl Rose look like Carl Sagan. So shut the fuck up. But despite that, and despite the fact this country was founded on a revolution that started with a boycott of British tea, remember? We threw all that shit in the harbor. We were like, fuck your tea. Remember that? Despite all of it, last week, the Senate passed an anti-BDS bill, and it will now go to the House of Representatives. That type of bill gets passed because of money. It's done with legalized bribery. But the influence of AIPAC's money doesn't stop there. John Mearsheimer, co-author of the book, The Israel Lobby, said, quote, "If you wander off the reservation and you become critical of Israel, you not only will not get money, AIPAC will go to great lengths to find somebody to run against you and support that person very generously. And the end result is that you're likely to lose your seat in Congress." So it's really a carrot and a stick scenario. If you do something wrong, they hit you with the stick. If you do something right, they promise not to shove the carrot up your ass. I think that's how that works. Anyway, chances are we will now see this with Representative Omar, right? Very wealthy lobbying groups and donors will fund a primary opponent in her next election to shut her up, to stop what she's been doing, which is questioning our oligarchy, our ruling elite, the moneyed interests that rule our decisions as a country. They will fund her opponent heavily, and they will attack her in the media until that time. There are examples of this happening in the past. She's not the first, right? Former Virginia Congressman Jim Moran voted against the invasion of Iraq, even though AIPAC heavily pressured Congress to vote for it. And this is what he said. He said, "A rabbi was assigned to me by AIPAC, and he warned me that if I voiced my views about the Israel lobby, that my career would be over, and implied that it would be done through the Washington Post." And sure enough, the Washington Post editorialized brutally. Everybody ganged up on me. The Washington Post. Fun fact, most of the reporting is done via Mad Lib. But the point is, Representative Omar was not wrong, and she was not being anti-Semitic. She was absolutely correct, and now she's being mercilessly attacked for it. Because the DNC does not want women of color or Muslims in their big tent. They want women of color and Muslims who go along with every imperialist, permanent war, unfettered greed belief that the ruling elite spew forth. Those are the only type allowed. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please click subscribe, and you gotta click the little bell icon next to it so that YouTube actually tells you about the fucking videos. Also, since I'm being heavily censored on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else, please sign up for the free email list by texting the word redacted, R-E-D-A-C-T-E-D, to 444-999. Just 6 digits, 444-999. It's free, it's quick if you're in the U.S., and it'll get you signed up to the email list. Keep fighting.